Here's the thing about the Jews control the world and everything like that. The problem is this: when it comes to black people, the Anglo whites and the white Jews, the white Jews who believe in white supremacy, they all get together and join forces against us. So that's been the problem. So it's almost like a distinction without a difference. Now, if they've hoarded the wealth that they've accumulated from some of the Anglos, so that's an internal issue. That's not an issue with black people, because both sides basically control us. You can't say, well, the Jews control the world. Well, we're controlled by white supremacy. If Jews control the world in the United States, over here during slavery, they were very adamant about white people running the show and all of the documents and the paperwork and the laws. So where did the Jews come in with that?
Well, actually, like, they were 95% of the slave owners, slave ships. That was not a white thing. That was a Jewish thing almost entirely.
Why were the slave ships named Christian names? Like when Sir John Hawkins, he had one of the earliest slave ships. It was called the Good Ship Jesus. Many of the slave ships had Christian names. Why is that?
Well, I can't speak on specific names, but they do like to hide behind Christian cloaks. I mean, they actually stole the identity of the Old Testament people of the Bible. That's why most Christians fall for their lies. They think that they're actually God's chosen when they're not.
Okay. So, yeah, if they were going to do that, they would pretty much be loud and proud. Why would they hide it?
Like, here's some of the names of the ships with their owners. Name of the ship was Abigail, but the owners were Aaron Lopez, Moses Levi, and Jacob Franks.
Yeah, Aaron Lopez. I know who Aaron Lopez. He built one of the first synagogues here in the U.S. But but he was one. And then you did have Jewish slave owners and you had Jewish ship owners, but for the most part, most of them, it was a white Christian thing.
No, it was. I'm telling you, brother, it was like 95% slave owners.
That's not true. That's not true.
Okay, so here's one study. It's at the height of American slavery, 78% of slave owners were ethnic Jews. It was actually, by the way, white Christians that stopped them under William Wilberforce, at least in the Western world. In Africa, it still goes on.
No, well, it was black people fighting during the Civil War that stopped that. But yeah, you had Jesus of Lubbock, Grace of God. You had ships like Blessing. That was a British slave ship. Trinity. That was another slave ship. Angel Gabriel, the Providence slave ship. Yeah, but why would they all had Christian names.
So they actually had Jewish names, and then they put Christian names on their boats so that you would hate Christians. That's what Jews do. They're trying to create a race war.
So yeah, they went to this big, long, elaborate trick.
We talked about our plans for the future.
He's the love of my life.
Love is a journey.
I can't even think straight.
It wasn't that long. It wasn't that elaborate. It's not that hard to check. You can get mad about it if you want.
No, I'm not mad. No, I'm trying to learn here. I'm just trying to make sense of it because,
the names of the ships were Abigail, Crown, Nassau, Four Sisters, Anne, and Eliza. Basic stuff. The names of the owners were Levi, Franks, Simpson, Lopez, Abrams, Phoenix, Lyle, Jewish names.
Yeah, but then you had Jackson, Johnson, Washington. These were Christians. These were Christian names. These were Christian slave owners.
Most of our founding fathers here were, in fact, secret society Freemason Satanists.
And they were slave owners, and they were Christian slave owners, sir. Sir?
Might have been the case.
But why did they have so many churches, and why did they force Christianity on black people and not Judaism?
Christianity was the vast majority. It was a Christian country, and Jews.
Right. So they forced Christianity on us. They had us going to Christian churches. They didn't have us going to synagogues, sir. So that shows that the slave owners were white, right?
No, we're enslaved together in the same country by the same people, basically.
Who was enslaved?
All of us.
No, we're not, sir. We're not enslaved. No, we're not all enslaved. It was foundational black Americans who were enslaved.
White people have no power here in America.
Oh, the hell you don't?
Not at all.
You don't have power?
Can you name a politician that's not controlled by the Jews?
None. They're not controlled by nobody. They can
you
do
name
any
example of our government being pro-Christian, even though we are a Christian nation?
Yeah, everything is pro-Christian.
No, they hate Christianity.
Not really. That's why there's so many churches here, sir. Let me get my brother Professor Allen in here. Professor Allen, hop on, please.
Hey, what's going on, Brother Tariq? Hey, family. I just want to identify that we may be looking at what Robert Greene calls self-directed warfare from our dear friend Dustin. Um, this is strategy number one called the polarity strategy. Robert
Mhm.
Greene says we live in an era in which people are seldom directly hostile. The rules of engagement, social, political, and military have changed, and so must your notion of the enemy. An upfront enemy is rare and now actually a blessing. People hardly ever attack you openly anymore, showing their intentions, their desire to destroy you. Instead, they are politically indirect. Although the world is more competitive than ever, outward aggression is discouraged, and so people have learned to go underground to attack unpredictably and craftively. Lastly, he says many use friendship as a way to mask aggressive desires. They come close to you to do more harm. I'm hearing this dude saying, what I'm hearing is, oh, we're all friends. Let's hold hands so we get close so he can stab us.
Mm.
And I'm out.
Thank you so
So
much.
I get it. Angry words hurt your feelings. Understood. Words are
No,
violence.
nobody's hurt. No, nobody's hurt, sir. I mean, that's a scholar. That's a certified
Sounds
professor. That's a tenured professor. So he's not hurt. He's
it,
bringing
it
scholarship. We're talking
sounds
scholarship here,
it
sir.
sounds a bit like the postmodernist professors who don't really know much but get paid a good salary to teach nonsense anyway. That essentially what he just said boiled down is that polite words become evil intent and violence suppressed because he doesn't like what I say, but the facts remain.
No, it's not. No, it's not, Dustin. It's not liking. You just have to bring scholarship to it. Just you're almost doing a white not
Okay.
say so. You're
I'll
like
quote,
when you say no, slow down. When you say yeah, the Christians were the Jews were pretending to be Christians. There's no scholarship to back that up. That's just
I
you
can
saying
prove that
that. So.
easily. Yeah, even today or through history. But let me quote a black scholar, Thomas Sowell, in Irresponsible
Thomas
Education.
Sowell, Thomas Sowell gets paid to regurgitate white supremacist talking points.
Well,
So yeah, that's our good
more
brother.
whites were brought
That's
as
our good.
slaves to
No,
North
slow
Africa
down,
than
slow
blacks.
down, slow down. I have to slow you down. When you have to quote somebody who white people pay to really spew their talking points to act as a black shield, that's a bad faith argument. So Thomas Sowell is not a good source.
When you
You
don't
have to pay.
follow,
You have
when
to
you
pay
don't
him
follow the
millions of dollars.
brothers with a
That
brain, you end up.
hold on, no. That's like saying Jason Whitlock said blase blah. Well, you pay him to say it, so that's they'll say
I didn't
anything
pay
you
him
tell them to
anything
say.
because Jews have all the
Right,
money. So I mean, you can
right.
get triggered about the facts, or you can just
No,
call
nobody.
everybody that you don't agree with like paid or whatever. But I'm trying to.
I'm not making that up. He is paid by right wing think tanks, so they pay him to say this stuff, and I'm not mad at him. You're supposed to get your money, but
Well, what he
we're
says
talking
is a fact.
scholarship.
In fact, more whites have been enslaved by blacks than blacks by whites
How
over
so?
history, including the Barbary slave trade.
Okay, we're not talking about societies that don't exist no more. The Moroccan Empire doesn't exist.
These
The
things are
Barbary
still
Empire.
happening today.
No. The Moroccan Empire doesn't exist no more, sir. We're talking about a nation that exists now. The United States had us enslaved. The United States and its constitution exists now.
All right.
The Ottoman Empire doesn't
Keep
exist no
muting me.
more.
I'm going to go.
No, but you're not. Yeah, thank you. You can leave. Yeah, he left, but yeah, you're not just gonna say shit. All right. You're not going to say shit and just use I'm just going to put the lies out there and just keep talking over you. No, we're going to slow down and then we'll dismantle everything. What he said was a damn lie. The slave trade was initiated and dominated by Christian monarchies. It wasn't the damn Jews. And this whole lies that they were pretending to be Christians is bullshit. Portugal and Spain kicked it off under Catholic rule. All right? The papal bulls were coming from the damn Pope and the damn Vatican. These are Christian people, and they had a papal bull saying that it's okay to subjugate non-Christian people. They didn't say, hey, this is a Jewish thing. No, they were very, very adamant when they started this shit. Who was running the show, all right? It wasn't no secret Jews up there in the Vatican doing all this. All right? In fact, Spain expelled the Jews. Portugal expelled the Jews. They expelled the Jews from there. and said, now that we got these Jews out of here, we about to get us some slavery going on around the world. Yeah, you're not going to do that. The British and American slave codes, they explicitly protected white Christians. Virginia slave codes, they were like, no Negro, mulatto, or Indian at any time shall be a witness against any white Christian. Right? They kept saying over and over in them damn laws, whites could not be enslaved if they were Christian. Look up them damn Virginia slave code laws, family. This ain't me talking. I'm telling you scholarship. This ain't emotion. Just look this shit up. Where's the scholarship about where they were really pretending to be Jews, where they were really Jews pretending to be Christians? That's bullshit. Yeah, he ran because no, we talking scholarship. He tried to say, well, Professor Allen, oh, you're being emotional. No. He's giving you some scholarly research here. We're not emotional. We just deal with facts over here. You don't do I'm white and I say so. We don't do that here. Yeah, slavery was justified legally by religion. It was Christianity versus heathens. The legal justification in those English colonies were hinged on whether the person was Christian. Huh? And even when we converted to Christianity, they said, well, you're going to still be slaves. Come on now. And many Jews, many of them in the early British colonies, many of them early on, they were actually barred from owning land or holding political office. In the early colonies, they had little political power. In 13th century Maryland and Virginia, Jews couldn't even vote. They couldn't openly practice Judaism. So how you going to run the entire country and they have to hide their religion? See, what you're saying is a contradiction. You can't say, well, they had to hide their religion and pretend to be Christians. And that means the Judaism ain't supreme then. They ain't running nothing. If you have to hide your shit, you ain't running nothing. If you have to hide who you are, that means by definition, you ain't running nothing. Those slave ships were owned by white Christians for the most part. Yeah, I mean, listen, they were Jewish slave owners. Yeah, they were. You had Judah B. Benjamin, who was basically the brains of the Confederacy. Yeah, you had you got a Jewish Confederate cemetery out there on the East Coast. Yeah, you had some Jews who were involved, but it was run by white Christians. Yeah, I don't get caught up in the religion thing. Yeah, most of those slave ships were funded, owned, and operated by Christian merchants. The Royal African Company, that was one of the largest slaving organizations, that was run by the British Crown. Wasn't no Jews. The Christian churches and the clergy, they actively profited from slavery. Excuse me. Them damn Quakers, some of them were slave owners. Come on now, and Pilgrims and Quakers and all them people. William Penn, who was a Quaker, he was a slave owner. That's what Pennsylvania is named after. It's with all that Jew stuff. Come on now. These universities, Georgetown, Harvard, that was funded from slave profits from Christian networks, not Jewish networks. And they were using the Bible to justify slavery. They weren't using the Torah. They were using the Bible to justify it. Huh?
This is what Ivy League universities you can get into with a 3.6 GPA.
90% of students with
this whole thing, because there was there was Jewish participation, but it wasn't centralized. That whole Jews ran 75% of the slave ships. No, that came from a book by Eli Faber. Yeah, it wasn't that many Jews over here like that. In the U.S., Jews made up of, really, truth be told, they made up less than 2% of the slaveholding population. It wasn't a big number. See, don't let them, they try to play this hot potato game. The white supremacists love skirting responsibility. They love skirting responsibility.